In this video, you will learn how to insulate a wall using wool. Warning: if you are using glass wool, then be sure to equip yourself with the following: protective gloves, a safety mask, protective eyewear. Here, we will be using natural insulating material. The tools you will need are a pencil, a tape measure, a ruler, a chalk line, a manual or electric saw, cutting pliers, a screw gun with screws suitable for plasterboard, a spirit level, a step ladder. You will also need some wool insulation boards, some rolls of vapor barrier, C-stud and track, flexible watertight sealing tape, and double-sided adhesive tape. Insulating a wall can be divided into 5 steps, which we will set out for you in detail. Step 1. Install the C-stud work frame. To be able to install the insulation on your wall, you will first need to put up a metallic framework. This framework will hold your insulation in place. The framework is a combination of studs and tracks. Begin by marking out reference points for where you will lay the tracks. Measure the thickness of 2 layers of insulation board. Transfer the measurement onto the floor from the wall you are insulating. First in the right-hand corner, then in the left. Then, trace a straight line between the right and left-hand markers you've made with the aid of a chalk line. Trace the markers up to the ceiling using a spirit level. Screw in a metal track along the marker line on the floor using a screw gun and screws adapted for plaster. Drill at 60 cm intervals. Repeat this step, fixing a track along the ceiling marker. Step 2. Installing a metal studwork frame around the windows. If the wall you are working on has a window, you will need to set up a specific studwork structure around it. The method we show you here is suitable for windows installed within the depth of the wall. Measure the height of the window. Cut the 2 C-studs to this length using the cutting pliers. Mark a line measuring the width of 1 plasterboard from the edge of the window. Drill the studs to the right and the left of the window, spacing your screws every 40 centimeters. Measure the distance between the 2 vertical studs either side of the window. Then cut 2 more studs to this length. Drill them in at the bottom and top of the window. Again, be sure to leave a margin the width of 1 plasterboard between the window and the support. Step 3. Installing the C-studs. The C-studs ensure that the insulation boards are held against the wall. Start by installing the C-studs at the sides of the window. Mark the spot where you will install the C-studs, in line with the C-studs you've already installed along the sides of the window. Use the spirit level to align the lines, first at floor level, then at ceiling level. Line the C-stud up, facing the wall, and mark the spot where you will cut it. Cut the C-stud to size and place it in the framework at the marked spot, hollow side facing outwards. Do the same thing on the other side of the window. Then, install the C-stud at 60 cm intervals from the C-stud by the windows. Drill the intermediary C-stud in pairs, back to back. Now all the C-stud is installed. To finish the framework for the windows, measure the distance between the floor and the top of the horizontal C-stud. Do the same for the top of the window and the ceiling. Cut 2 pieces of C-stud to each of these lengths and drill them to the studs surrounding the window. Measure the distance between the 2 pieces of C-stud and cut another piece to this length. Then install it on the rails. Install 2 more lengths of C-stud back to back, in line with the middle of the window, and drill them together. Step 4. Cutting and installing the insulation. Put the first layer of insulation behind the framework. Adjust it to the dimensions of your wall. Your first layer is now installed. The second layer is placed vertically between the C-stud. Install this layer across the whole surface of your wall. Your wall is now completely insulated. Step 5. Installing the vapor barrier. The vapor barrier is placed between the insulation and the plasterboard and serves to regulate any water vapor exchanges, also preventing spots of concentrated humidity that could cause your insulation to deteriorate prematurely. Measure the height of the wall and allow an extra 15 centimeters on each side to ensure a proper join at the ends of the surface. Mark these measurements on the vapor barrier. Cut the vapor barrier using a cutter. Apply double-sided adhesive tape along the length. Then apply the vapor barrier, starting at the top to make it easier. Make sure you leave a 15 centimeter margin at the top of the wall when applying the vapor barrier. Do the same thing along the length of the wall. Join the different sheets using watertight sealing tape. Your insulation is now finished.